Hello, my name is Gina and welcome to my channel. In today's video I am going to take you through downward facing dog. So I'm going to first of all talk a little bit about downward facing dog, and then I'm going to take you through a sequence where we will be incorporating downward dog through various other yoga poses. Now, downward facing dog is a classic yoga pose and it has been used for hundreds of thousands of years. And the Sanskrit name is Ardho Mukha Svanasana. So it sounds really poetic, really nice, and it's always really nice to refer to the asanas in the Sanskrit name because it just has real depth to it and it just sounds really beautiful as well. So with downward facing dog, it is an overall stretch for the entire body. You'll be working the entire body in downward dog. And it's also really great for circulation. So it improves your circulation in the body. And the other day on Instagram, I posted a video on yoga and skincare because I really believe that in yoga, your asana, your poses, really help to improve circulation, which really helps to allow blood to flow through the body, purifying the blood, purifying the body, releasing toxins so that your skin can glow. And downward facing dog is a great pose for this because you are just dropping the head down, you're lowering the head down towards the ground, you're allowing blood to flow through the body, through the heart center. The blood is being purified at the heart, comes into the head, into the mind, refreshes the mind, and then allows the skin on your face to glow too. So it really is a great pose for internally and for externally. Also, downward facing dog is a great transition pose. So it's often used in sequences because you kind of use downward facing dog to then move into other yoga poses too. And when you first do downward facing dog, it can be a very strong pose because you are using a lot of upper body strength and you're stretching the entire body. But the more you practice downward facing dog, the easier it will become, and it'll also become almost like a place of rest, a place where you can pause and stop before you move into the next pose. And that's how we're going to be working on it in the sequence today. So we're going to be transitioning from one pose to the next and using downward facing dog in between those poses. Also, what I want you to bear in mind is the sequence that I'm going to take you through is an intermediate yoga sequence. So if you have been practicing yoga before and regularly, then this sequence will be fine for you. If you've been coming to my classes regularly as well, then again, this is a lot of work that we've been doing in my class, so you'll be fine with this sequence. But if you have not been practicing yoga regularly, or if you are new and you haven't practiced yoga before at all, then I'd just like to refer you to my last video that I posted, which was on child's pose, which also included a sequence which is much more tailored to a beginner. So do check that video out, and then you can use this video once you've been practicing yoga for a little bit longer. So also a couple of points that I want to bear in mind is the alignment of downward facing dog. So it's really key that you get the alignment right in downward dog. And what we want to bear in mind is that the feet in downward facing dog should be about hip width apart or slightly wider. And you want to drop the heels towards the ground. So the heels might not touch the ground, but you're just giving that intention of the heels dropping so that you feel that deep stretch into the back of the legs. And the back of the knees are straight, or there's a little bend into the knees, just allowing a little bit of softness into the legs. So the knees don't want to be completely locked up. You'll be rolling your hips forward and taking the tailbone up towards the ceiling. You'll be dropping through the chest and dropping through the head and really pushing the hands into the ground so that you can draw the chest towards the thighs. And you want to make sure that the shoulders are relaxed, that you're not kind of hunching the shoulders up towards the ears. You want the shoulders to separate one from the other. And I kind of encourage the hands to go almost shoulder width apart or wider. And you want to really spread through the fingers so you've got that connection with the ground and to your mat. And so those are a couple of key alignments. You want to also just drop into your neck and just keep the neck and the head really relaxed. And I'll also, go over these points as we're going through the sequence, but those are like some key alignment details that you want to get correct so that you can really relax into your downward facing dog and so that you can hold the pose for long periods of time. So, with all that being said, let's get to the sequence.
Our practice, we'll start with a warm-up, a short warm-up, and we'll start in cat pose. So if you come down onto your hands and knees, and just ensure that your knees are hip width apart and your hands are shoulder width apart with the fingers spread. So just taking a moment here to open up through the spine. So if you just drop your tailbone down, pull the belly button up towards the spine, and just drop the head and allow your shoulder blades to separate one from the other, and just feeling an arch in the spine. And then from here, on an inhalation, start to take your tailbone up towards the ceiling, drop your belly and lift the head up, and feeling that stretch across the front of the body. On an exhalation, once again, start to arch the spine. And as you inhale, start to invert the spine. Once more, arching the spine and inverting the spine. And then from here, just coming into a neutral position. We'll now take the right hand underneath the left, stretching the hand away from us and just allowing the head to come down towards the ground, but not quite touching the ground. And here now, just feeling a stretch into the upper arm and into the shoulder. And then just coming all the way back through to center and moving to the other side. So now taking the left hand underneath the right, stretching the left hand away from you. And again, just feeling that stretch into the left arm and into the left shoulder. And then once again, coming back through to center. From here now, start to take your knees closer together, and we'll step the right foot back, drawing the toes under and pushing the right heel away from you. Here now, just feeling a stretch down into the back of the right leg and into the hamstring. Take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, draw your right knee in towards the forehead, rounding out through the back. And then on an inhalation, start to open up the stretch, extending the leg so it's parallel to the ground, and taking your gaze to look up. Exhale, close the stretch, and inhale to open. Again, exhale to close, inhale to open. We'll then step the right foot out to the side as we prepare to come into gate pose. And in gate pose, we'll work with the breath. So inhale as you take your right hand forward and up towards the ceiling. Exhale, draw the right hand all the way down, back and around. Inhale, taking the right hand up. Exhale, down. Inhale, up. Exhale down, and then here inhale up and just exhale as you extend the right hand up towards the ceiling, ensuring that the right hand is over the shoulder and you're really lengthening through the fingers and feeling that stretch down through the right side of the body, and keep dropping the right hip so that you really feel that stretch and opening into the rib cage, and again down through the right side of the body. And then just lowering that right hand down as you now step your right foot to the outside of the right hand, coming into a wide lunge. And we'll take a moment here to draw circles with the right knee to encourage the right hip to open up. So just take a few moments with this. And then we'll take the right knee back again as we prepare to do the other side. So now just taking your left foot back, draw the toes under and push the left heel away from you. Again, feeling that stretch into the back of the left leg and into the hamstring. And then from here, take a breath in, and as you exhale, draw your left knee in towards the forehead. And inhale, extending the leg all the way back as you raise your gaze to look up, coming into tiger stretch. And exhale to close. Inhale to open, exhale to close. Once more, inhale to open, exhale to close, and then inhale to open, and we'll just step the left foot out to the side as we prepare to come into gate pose. So now working with the breath, inhale, take your left hand forward, up and exhale it back down and around. Inhale forward, up, exhale down. Once more, inhale forward, exhale back, and then inhale to open and exhale. Just continue to hold the left hand up towards the ceiling, ensuring again that the left hand is directly over the left shoulder, and you're feeling that stretch down through the left side of the body. Again, just be mindful of the left hip, just dropping the left hip so you feel that stretch down through the left side. And then placing the left hand down onto the mat as you step your left foot to the outside of the left hand, coming into a wide lunge and taking a few moments to draw circles with the left knee to open up into the left hip. So continue with this for another moment. And then placing that left knee all the way back down onto the ground and taking a moment to come into a child's pose. So here, just dropping the hips down towards the heels and either taking the hands underneath the forehead or either side of the body and resting the forehead onto the ground. We'll take a moment here in child's pose just to rest and to allow the spine to stretch and open. So take a slow, deep breath in. And exhale fully. From here now, we'll start to take the hands out in front of us. So just ensure that your hands here are shoulder width apart or slightly wider and really spread the fingers. And then lifting your hips up, draw the toes under as you come into your downward facing dog. And once again, just being mindful of your alignment, so ensuring that the feet are hip width apart, that you're sinking the heels down towards the ground. The backs of the knees are straight, but there's a sense of softness into the knees. Roll your hips forward, take your tailbone up towards the ceiling, and feel a sense of length through the spine as you actively push your hands into the ground, drawing your chest towards the thighs. Relax into your neck and your head and just gaze towards the back of your mat. And then we'll just take a few moments for a little bit of light movement here to allow energy to flow through the downward dog. So here now, just stepping the feet up and down, bending into the knees one at a time, just releasing into the legs. And then take a moment just to sway your hips from side to side, just loosening up through the hip area. And then just turning your head from side to side to soften into the neck. And then once again, continue to hold the downward facing dog and just noticing the flow of your breath. We'll then take a moment now to lower the knees down onto the ground and keeping the knees close together and then stepping your right foot forward as we come into a low lunge. And as we come into this low lunge, just lifting the upper body up, take your hands onto the right thigh and just walk your right foot a little bit further up your mat so that you can really sink the hips down towards the ground to feel that stretch into the hips and into the left thigh and into the groin area too. So just take a moment to hold here. And then we're going to place the hands down either side of the right foot as we prepare to come into a high lunge. So now draw your left toes under, lifting your left knee off the mat. And take a few moments in your high lunge just to lift the hips up and down and to loosen up into the lower body. And then from here, just holding the high lunge, keep your left hand on the ground and raise your right hand up towards the ceiling, feeling that twist coming from the belly button and drawing your chest towards the right thigh. So take a moment to hold here. And then lowering your right hand down and stepping your right foot back into a downward facing dog, and take a moment to hold the downward facing dog. From here now, once again, lower your knees down onto the ground to begin as we now do the left side. So now step your left foot forward and coming into this low lunge, lift your upper body up and place your hands onto your left thigh. and walk your left foot a little bit further up the mat as you then sink a little bit deeper into the hips and into the groin area, and just feeling the stretch into the right thigh. Take a moment to hold, just noticing your breath and feeling the stretch within the body. We'll then take this into a high lunge. So place your hands down either side of your left foot. Draw your back toes under, lift the back knee off the mat, and then coming into your high lunge, and take a few moments here to lift your hips up and down, loosening up through the lower body. Once again, take a moment to hold. Keep your right hand on the ground and raise your left hand up towards the ceiling as we come into a twist. Just ensuring here that your left hand is directly over the left shoulder. So just thinking about that alignment as you twist from the belly button and draw your chest towards the left thigh. Continue to hold, just feeling the stretch and noticing the breath. From here now, we'll lower the raised hand down and stepping your left foot back into your downward facing dog. Take a few moments to hold downward dog and just feeling yourself just settle into this pose after that sequence and noticing the breath. From here now, we'll move into a plank pose. So start to take your shoulders over the wrists and lowering your hips down in line with the head and the heels. And as you come into plank pose, be mindful here of your lower back. So here you really want to draw your belly button towards the spine, squeezing into your abdominal muscles to ensure that your core is working to support the lower back. If you're aware of your pelvic floor, you'll also want to squeeze into the pelvic floor to really provide that strength to hold the plank pose. And if this feels too strong for you, you can always lower the knees down onto the ground. And in fact, from here, we will lower the knees down as we then come into an upward facing dog. So here the knees are down. You can relax into the toes and just lengthen through your upper body, opening up through the chest, actively pushing the hands into the ground and lengthening the neck out of the shoulders, raising your gaze to look up slightly as you hold an upward facing dog. Knowing here in an upward facing dog, we're just inverting into the spine and just really feeling that lovely stretch across the front of the body. So take a moment to hold here. And then we're going to lift the hips up, draw the toes under and rise back into our downward facing dog. So again, just take a moment here in downward dog. And then we'll take the toes closer together so that they touch. And we're going to raise the right foot up towards the ceiling in dog tail. So as you come into dog tail, keep your hips level and really just point the right toes and really lengthening through the right leg, feeling that stretch through the body. Keep sinking into your left heel so that you also feel that stretch down through the left leg as well. Continue to hold. And then we'll take this into a high lunge. So you're going to step your right foot alongside your right hand, coming into a high lunge. And from here, we'll take a moment to lower the left knee down onto the ground as we once again raise the upper body up. And as you come up into this lunge position, once again, just edge your right foot a little bit further forward so you get comfortable in this stretch. And we'll then take the hands into a prayer position at the chest. And we're going to work with a twist here again. So this time you're going to twist over to the right, twisting from the belly button, and now connecting your left elbow to the outside of the right thigh and actively pushing the palms of the hands together so that you can really deeply twist. And then from here, lifting the back knee off the mat, continue to hold. And if you wish to challenge yourself and go a little bit further, you can then lower your left hand down towards the outside of your right foot. But just ensure that your left upper arm is on the outside of your right knee. So really feeling a deep twist here, and that twist is coming from the belly button as you then really extend that right hand up towards the ceiling and you're looking up at the raised hand. So again, just take a moment to hold. And then we'll lower the raised hand down, just taking your hands either side of your right foot. And we'll step that right foot back into your downward facing dog. So let's do the other side. So take the toes closer together once again and take your left foot up towards the ceiling in dog tail. So take a moment to really lengthen through that left leg, to stretch the foot away from you and to keep the hips level. So just note here, we're not opening up into the hips, we're just lengthening down through the left side. And then taking a big step as you place your left foot alongside the left hand as you come into a lunge position. And here we'll lower the back knee down, relax into the back toes as we raise the upper body up. And again, just adjusting that left foot so that it is in a comfortable wide position. And then from here, taking the hands into a prayer pose at the chest. And rotating towards the left, rotating from that belly button, connecting your right elbow to the outside of the left knee, really actively pushing the palms of the hands together to encourage that deep twist. And then from here, lifting the back knee off the mat. Continue to hold. And if you wish to go further, you can then lower that right hand down and extend the left hand up towards the ceiling. And you're just gazing up towards that raised hand and feeling this deep twist into the torso. Take a moment to hold, and again, just ensure that the breath is flowing. From here now, lower that raised hand down, take your hands either side of that left foot and stepping that left foot all the way back into your downward facing dog. And just taking a moment to hold the downward dog and almost feeling that the downward dog here is a place of rest. It's that transition pose in between the other poses as we work through this sequence. And it's also a space and place for the spine to realign itself after such a deep twist. From here now, we'll start to move into plank pose once again. And this time in plank pose, we're going to lower the knees down as we prepare to come into Chaturanga Dandasana. So here now, you're going to bend the elbows back behind you, taking the elbows behind you and then lowering down, keeping your hips in line with the head as you come all the way down, hovering off the mat for a moment and then rising up into a cobra pose. So here as you come into cobra, lower the hips down, squeeze the glutes and opening up through the chest and raising the gaze to look up slightly. From here now, you'll lift your hips up and back as you come into your downward facing dog once again. From your downward dog, we'll take the toes closer together and we're going to come into pigeon pose. So you're going to take your right knee alongside the right hand and taking your right foot up slightly towards the left hand. You'll then lower down into the back knee and just ensuring that your hips are level. So here you can use your left hand to lift that right foot up slightly higher so that you feel that deep twist down into the right glutes. And remember here to keep the hips level. Try not to sink into your right hip because otherwise you won't feel that deep stretch into the right glutes. And we'll take a moment to rest here. So just drawing your upper body down, lowering your forehead towards the ground and just taking a moment to really breathe into the right side. So continue to hold and just feeling the stretch. And then once again, we're going to raise the upper body up and we're going to come onto the forearms here. So coming onto your forearms as we get ready to come into King Pigeon Pose. So you're going to raise your left foot up. And you're going to take your left hand to hold on to the left foot as you straighten through the right elbow and just coming up a little bit higher and really extending up through the chest, raising the gaze to look up slightly and holding this King Pigeon Pose. And here you'll just feel a nice stretch into the hips and perhaps like a deeper stretch into the left thigh and the left glute. And then from here, we'll start to release into the back foot as you lean forward, lowering your left hand down, draw the back toes under and just stepping back into your downward facing dog. So take a moment once again in downward dog as we then do the other side. So again, take your toes closer together so that they touch. Take your left knee forward towards the left hand and taking your left foot towards the right hand. Drawing the back knee down, release the back toes and just take a moment to settle here into pigeon, and you can use your right hand to lift that left foot up slightly higher and just feeling that stretch, and you can then lower the upper body down. And as you come into this pigeon pose, just ensure that your shoulders are relaxed and you're just taking a moment to hold and just feeling that deep stretch into the left glute. And also knowing that we're working deeply to open up through the hips. Once again, just hold the pose and notice your breath. And then just raising the gaze to look up slightly, you'll come onto your forearms again to begin as we get ready for King Pigeon Pose. So you're now going to lift up through the right foot and then lifting the upper body up, straighten through the left elbow as you reach your right hand to hold onto the right foot. Just coming up a little bit higher in that pigeon pose, opening up through the front of the body, opening up through the chest and raising the gaze up slightly as you hold King Pigeon. And once again, holding the pose and noticing the flow of the breath. And then lean forward as you release into that back foot, taking the hands down onto the ground. Draw the back toes under and step back into your downward facing dog. Take a moment once again in downward dog. We'll then come back into plank pose. Holding plank pose, we'll come into a full Chaturanga Dandasana with the knees off the ground. So start to bend the elbows back, hovering off the mat for a moment and really squeezing into the abdominal muscles. And then lowering the hips down and rising up into a cobra pose. From your cobra pose, lifting your hips up and back as you come back into your downward facing dog. And then we'll take the toes closer together, coming into dog tail once again, and this time opening up into a scorpion. So here you're going to bend into your right knee slightly, taking your right foot over towards the left slightly as you lift up through the right hip. So this time, unlike dog tail, this time in scorpion, we're lifting the right hip up towards the ceiling and just feeling that stretch and opening down through the right side of the body. You'll then take your right foot wide to the outside of the right hand, and we're coming into a lizard pose. So from here, turn your right toes out to the side slightly and feel that opening into the right hip. We'll then go a little bit deeper with this as you lower your back knee down. And then from here, you're going to lift up through the back foot and taking your right hand to hold on to that left foot. And here just looking up. And if you wish to go further, you can even come down onto the left forearm. So really working deeply into opening up the hips. And then from here, just coming back up and releasing into the back foot. Take your hands down and then from here stepping back into your downward facing dog, taking a moment just to align everything and preparing to come into the other side. So take your toes closer together, take your left foot up into a dog tail to begin, and then just opening up into the hip and bending into the left knee, coming into scorpion. So now you're lifting that left hip up towards the ceiling, bending through the knee, pointing through the left toes, and you're also just looking underneath the left armpit. And then you're going to take that left foot wide to the outside of the left hand as you come into lizard pose and turning your toes out to the side. Take a moment to hold the lizard pose, and then we'll lower the back knee down and lifting up through the right foot and taking your left hand to hold onto the right foot. So here you can hold it here, or if you wish to go further, you can challenge yourself and come down onto the right forearm. So take a moment here to hold this deep lizard pose, working deeply into the hips and really feeling that stretch. And then we'll release into the back foot, taking the hands down onto the mat, and we will step back into your downward facing dog. So continue to hold downward facing dog and just notice the breath. And then from here, we're going to take a moment to come into a dolphin position. So you're now going to take your hands closer together so that the thumbs are touching. And you're going to hold dolphin pose. So in order to come into dolphin, you're going to lower both your elbows down onto the ground at the same time. So take a moment here to come down. And then as you come down into dolphin pose, you can then interlock the fingers. So dolphin pose is very similar to downward facing dog, but you'll see here that we are on the forearms. And if in your practice you find that downward facing dog is too strong on your wrist, you can always take this option of the dolphin pose, which also really stretches out into the legs and down through the spine and is a really nice stretch for the entire body. We'll then take a moment to come into child's pose, so just lowering the knees down, taking the hands either side of the body or underneath the forehead, and just allowing yourself to take a deep breath in here and exhale fully. And then coming into the last pose, we're going to just hold downward facing dog once more. So again, taking your hands out in front of you, taking the hands to shoulder width apart or wider, and then lifting yourself back up into downward facing dog. And we're just going to take a few moments to hold the downward dog to complete this session. So here, again, just ensuring that your feet are hip width apart and you're sinking the heels down towards the ground. Actively push the hands into the ground and really drawing that chest towards the thighs. Take a few moments now to hold downward dog and to really feel the stretch within your body and to feel the sensations within your body, knowing that whatever you are feeling is temporary and it will pass. And here, as you continue to hold downward dog, you can even close the eyes and really allowing this to be almost like a meditative practice as you hold downward dog and really bringing your awareness inwards and feeling the flow of your breath coming in and out of the body. Continue to hold, knowing that very shortly we'll be coming out of this pose. So just mentally within your mind, telling yourself you have the strength to hold this downward facing dog. And then from here, we'll start to lower the knees down onto the ground, resting the toes and allowing yourself to come into a full child's pose, a child's pose that is comfortable for you, where you'll just take a few moments to rest, knowing that now we have completed this sequence.
I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you feel like the blood circulating and moving through your body, and I hope you felt like an entire stretch for the body. So please do subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already,